What's up, everybody? Welcome to Super Theory Podcast, Episode 5. Keep on keaton on. Today, we're going to talk about all the recent crazy, wild developments in the DCEU. As always, I'm Brandon Martin, and with me is Chris Green.
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Brandon, how are you doing?
Man, I'm good. Trying to live that quarantine life as best as possible.
Yeah, with a little bit of news and nostalgia from Keaton fans out there, huh?
Bro, we have so much to talk about. For those of you who don't know, even though we talk about all comic book movies and possibilities and theories we have about what could happen in the future, we are first and foremost Batman fans. And so today, what we're going to go over is, one of the things we started saying when we did our first episode back in the Snyder again, we said, nothing is off the table. And boy, did we not know how true that was.
I don't even think we would have, if you would have said, put your wildest predictions, I don't even think we would have even thought about this possibility.
I would have, I keep trying to think of all these funny things to say, like I would have never hit the target on or whatever. I had no fucking clue this was coming.
Well, but even with every interview that Michael Keaton does, even during the press tour he did for Spider-Man,
yeah,
he would always try to slip in there that he was Batman.
Right, and it's undeniable.
I mean, it never even occurred to me to even think that way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Adam West came way before him,
Right.
and was Batman, but I don't think there's any disagreement. And if you do disagree, fucking write me an email. We can talk about it. Keaton is, Batman first and foremost.
Yes, when I think of Batman, I think of Keaton first, even if he hasn't stayed my favorite Batman.
Yeah.
Most of that is just due to me growing up and liking different things.
Mhm.
But I rewatched the original Batman from 1989. I would have been 4 when that came out. I remember vividly my dad getting in trouble for showing me that movie in 1990
Oh yeah.
when I was 5, and back then it was rated R. And the movie still, it's a little bit, even though it has the darker tone because it's a Tim Burton stylized movie, it still feels a little campy as compared to some of the grittier stuff we've seen lately. But man, it's still good. Still like it.
Yeah, man, I grew up watching the Keaton movie, and you know, man, that was huge for me. I had the little Batman figure,
Yep.
his belt. Instead of him having a grappling gun, his belt extended out with like a little white. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
dude, I
thing.
remember that. Yeah.
And God, I mean, I had that. I had the Batmobile.
Yep.
It was to hear these things now about him even slightly being involved. It's just bonkers to me. And again,
Well, and this is like a move. I think we talked a couple episodes ago of what DC can do to catch up to what Marvel has been able to produce on the big screen. And I think our conclusion was just put a couple of movies together, show us you have a plan at least, because we can't even get there with you. And this is something that I would give them all top marks for. It completely surprised me. I don't know if it's because they've changed directions at the helm, kind of going away from Jeff Johns and his direction and kind of implementing Jim Lee. But, man, if that's one of his first moves, then kudos, because that was awesome.
Yeah, and when all this came out about the Snyder Cut being having the potential to even be made, or no, I'm sorry, not the potential, but when it was announced, and then Zach did the interview with the one person from I think it was a Hollywood Reporter, Boris, and told him straight up that I had a presentation. We had some WB executives over there. One of those people was Jim Lee, and he was in the spot where Jeff Johns used to be as chief creative officer for DC. And it was said that all those execs left Zach's house from that presentation excited and almost giddy about what could be. And which, that's what we were hyped on in this first episode. Like, oh my God, it's happening. But
Right.
then Jim Lee, I'm imagining he's, as chief creative officer, is the one who's pulling these types of punches. Comes out of nowhere with this idea of throwing in Michael Keaton as a potential, from what people are saying, a potential replacement, at least in the DCEU, for Ben Affleck's Batman as sort of a mentor. That's kind of the word on the street if you're reading the internet. Um, but
And there are a couple, I guess, theories to that too. I've seen he's going to potentially be Thomas Wayne, which goes in the face of another theory we've heard.
see, I think
There's like three different ones going around.
I can't imagine that he's playing Thomas Wayne. I think the way Jim Lee is moving, he's got to be smart enough to know that if you're going to bring Michael Keaton back, you bring him back as Bruce Wayne. Um,
Right.
Also, Jim Lee, if you're making these kind of power moves, knows exactly how much not only people want the Snyder Cut, but people want things that came from Zack Snyder's world. And one of those things is from the beginning opening of Batman versus Superman, when you see Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne, your first thought is, oh my God, he would be, the Flashpoint Batman would be amazing.
Exactly.
I mean, he played the comedian in Watchmen, also by Zack Snyder.
Yep.
And to see Lauren Cohan as, a twisted Martha Wayne Joker who is devastated by the death of her child and it drives her mad. Seeing Lauren Cohan play that, whew, bro.
That would be awesome.
The art out there that some of these digital artists are doing are badass, and it's just like Zack Snyder said today about his movie. It's the tip of the iceberg. It's just the tip of the iceberg in what could be a Flashpoint. Uh, I mean, I don't think there's any more perfect pick for a Thomas Wayne / Flashpoint Batman as Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I mean,
No, and obviously he gained some steam in everyone's eyes playing Negan from
yeah,
Walking Dead,
yep,
and just about as hateable a character as there's ever been on fucking TV.
yep,
I hated him on that show.
yep.
That's how good he was playing that role. And man, yeah, as we were forced to watch another opening scene of Batman's parents being killed again, that was one of the things that popped in my mind was, man, if they could get him to play Batman in a Flashpoint movie, that would be something we have never seen before on the big screen and another way to differentiate yourself. Because I think what's still up in the air is the cause and effect of what the Snyder Cut will bring.
Yes.
If it is successful on whatever metric people on the inside decide to make it, whether it be financial or views or however it ends up being, what remnants of that come from that? And I saw an interview with the director of Wonder Woman say that she kind of put her plans for Wonder Woman 3 on pause.
Bro.
She kind of hinted at the fact that maybe it had to do with a couple of things, including the COVID-19
Yeah.
crisis. But I also sort of wondered if it was kind of waiting to see the reaction to the Snyder Cut.
I mean,
And
you have to
how do
think
we move from there? And that's just where my mind went.
you have to think that's just like the biggest part of it, even if she doesn't want to say it because maybe she probably can't say it.
Right.
But I mean, man, hell yeah, it's being held off because
Because that would make sense to everybody involved. Is
mm-hmm.
you do a Flashpoint movie to kind of reset the timeline, especially if you can't get every actor from the Snyderverse to move forward.
Right.
And that's going to affect obviously one of the biggest characters, Wonder Woman.
And
Because
no,
I've heard that her standalone, the Wonder Woman 2 movie, is a true standalone movie.
right. And
So it doesn't have to be connected to anything.
Yeah. I read today also that Diana in Wonder Woman 2 is a much more evolved Diana. So
And it's set in the 80s, is that right?
Yes.
80s, okay.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm so excited to see Zack Snyder direct her in a 4-hour movie because the small part that we got of her, like fighting Doomsday and all that. I mean, even her and Bruce in that dancing scene when he tries to get his hard drive back. I mean, that is, bro. That's not haha. I'm Wonder Woman. I can save the world. That's like I'm a badass bitch, and
Oh yeah.
even you can't fuck with me, Batman. You know what I
Well,
mean?
if you put in the moments of Batman versus Superman that really got you pumped, it
Mm-hmm.
was technically the second time we heard the Wonder Woman theme when she dropped down and
Oh
saved
yeah,
Batman from Doomsday Blast. But that moment is up there with every other insanely great part of the movie. I mean, I was hyped
yeah,
the minute
and
I heard her theme.
bro, and I mean that theme is sticking around. I mean, Patty Jenkins is not letting that go. You know what I
No,
mean? I
that
mean,
is
it's
the
sick.
theme. You have a theme for Superman that has been forever.
Yeah,
We could argue what the Batman theme is now because now there's been three of them that are pretty good.
yeah,
But yeah, that's the seminal Wonder Woman
right.
theme.
But going back to Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Zack Snyder, if he's proved anything, is that he is very calculated. Uh,
Yeah,
Everything serves a purpose, and that made the sole purpose of Batman versus Superman opening scene, seeing another death, may purposefully have been to show him as Thomas Wayne, because down the line, again, a 5 movie arc, he's planned out. He knows what's coming down, and to see who, in my mind, in this world that I want to create, who could be a Thomas Wayne Batman down the line. I mean, I think there's no question it's him. And so
well,
just to
if
introduce
you go
that
back,
aspect,
go back and watch the scene where Superman arrives at the Capitol
right.
and Batman versus Superman, and Batman is watching it from his, I guess, conference room. It looks like maybe
Yeah, and
it looks like he's
the
possibly at his
painting.
house.
Yeah, and the
But
painting in
yeah,
the back.
there's a portrait of Thomas Wayne behind him,
Right.
in the frame on purpose. You know,
Yeah, to show where he's coming from.
otherwise you wouldn't have hung it there. I mean, yeah, so it's all calculating, and that's the biggest part of wanting to see Zack Snyder's vision at least go through is I don't know how much extra I guess maybe or newer versions of these characters we're gonna feel as we see extra scenes of them, but I do know at least that his vision going all the way through is going to feel like a more complete story, and not leave us with 1,000 questions wondering what if.
And you know what else? Sorry to keep going back to it, but man, when Bruce tells Alfred, he's like, my dad sat me right here and told me how uh, Wayne Enterprises or whatever we made our fortune as how he first started, and he talks about the trading of pelts, and he's like, he basically he says my dad said we were hunters,
Yep.
and seeing Thomas Wayne hunt down motherfuckers as a Flashpoint
Yeah,
Batman,
yeah,
woo,
yeah,
with that Negan type energy, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
honed in for Thomas Wayne Batman. Holy fuck, dude. I mean,
yeah. I think it's going
that's
to
got
be.
like Las Vegas lights all around it telling me let's fucking go and place our bets.
Well, now, what will be interesting as we get closer to the Flash movie is how they choose to adapt that movie, because they're going to have to cast all new people. You can't necessarily have the actual actress that plays Wonder Woman play that version of Wonder Woman, and
See,
that version of Aquaman play that version of Aquaman.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think you could use Jason Momoa and her because technically they're the same people.
Okay,
Uh,
so you're saying that really the only edge difference in the universe of that storyline is the Bruce and Thomas Wayne switcheroo.
yes, I think I definitely think there's some cool things you could do to play with super side characters, especially if, and again, it's already been said that like this live action Flashpoint is going to be not the exact same as like Flashpoint the
Right.
storyline or the animated movie which is based pretty much directly off of the comic. Um, but you have this is just the first thing that popped up that might be cool and also give this dude some more cred is maybe have the guy who plays like the Robin version in Flashpoint. I forgot his name. Uh, but do you know what I'm talking about? He's got like the full face. Uh,
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
yeah.
I know what you're trying to.
Let me look it up because I don't want to. I don't want to get it wrong. Let's see the Flashpoint character. And I'm sorry, I feel like a fraud for getting this dude, but um, God, he's in this other movie or this other comic I read too that was like a super. Is it The Outsider? No. Anyways, I think a cool person to play that guy would be bring back Jimmy Olsen, or the guy who played Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, from BVS.
Yeah, from BVS, but have him play like the sidekick to Thomas Wayne's Batman, maybe. That might be a cool little way to give him some more screen time and just a fun little nod to that.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I don't think you have to recast everyone. I think when you bring in someone like Lauren Cohan and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, like you're being true to the comic because you're letting that character be who they were in this alternate timeline, and it just adds more weight if it's those people. But at the same time, in the Flashpoint timeline, it's still Arthur Curry and Diana. They're just they're at war. So you could still technically have Jason Momoa and her play Wonder Woman, but play just this completely different version of them and show the range of the actors you have, especially in Jason Momoa. I mean, that dude, he deserves a little bit more cred, you know.
Yeah, because I guess too in the animated movie, it's not as if Flash ends up in this new time zone or timeline and doesn't recognize Diana or Arthur.
Right.
He recognizes them. So yeah, I guess you're right. And boy, yeah, that would talk about a scale of acting. That would be great to see. But again, we don't know how they're going to adapt it, and I do think that's one of the stronger points of what Marvel does is they don't necessarily take the direct storyline and just make a carbon copy. They kind of change some aspects, and even key aspects, and they kind of make it work. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think if Jim Lee's the one pulling the strings now, he's off to a good start with the Keaton.
Yeah, and honestly, it's it feels like he is. He in fact might be the Kevin Feige of the DCEU.
Yeah, especially with this first move, if this could be the catalyst to, I guess we could debate on what role Keaton will end up having.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us are on the same page. We prefer him not to be Thomas Wayne. But does that mean that you'd prefer him to be his own Batman from the version that we see in 1989, and we're just 30 years further in the future, and now maybe it's a Batman Beyond scenario?
I think,
or is he still actually fighting?
That's kind of what it sounds like. Is God, I can't find this dude's character, and I feel stupid as fuck. I'm trying to figure out who that side character is to Thomas Wayne's Batman, and it's I don't know what it is. Anyways, I feel like it would be a huge disservice to not let Keaton play Batman from his universe. And from the people on the legit scoopers are saying that's more than likely what's happening. Him playing Thomas Wayne would kind of just fuck up their whole feng shui.
That seems like some CW shit.
That for sure does, yes.
Yeah, if they bring him back as Thomas Wayne, that's some CW shit.
Plus, you bring up a great point because in the crossover that they did, Crisis on Infinite Earths, they already established that Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne exists in his Earth because they show what's his name, the dude that's like the journalist that teams up with Vicky Vale. I forgot, Knox. That's his name.
Yeah, Knox.
They show him in the CW Crisis looking at a magazine or whatever, or a newspaper, and saying, Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle married or something like that. So
Yep.
he exists, and they also showed Ezra Miller's Flash in that show as well. It was like the
So
last big
that
thing they
confirms it.
did. You know what I
We're
mean?
confirming that right now. Then.
Yes, I would say so. I would say that Jim Lee, being in the spot he's in and making these types of moves, and also being a chief creative officer, absolutely knows that he cannot bring Michael Keaton in as a Thomas Wayne. It would mess up their CW timeline, because even though they're having a multiverse, they still want the multiverse to be as simplistic as possible for people to catch on to. So
Right.
in doing that, you wouldn't make a second Keaton verse. You know what I mean? You'd keep him in the one you've established, which is Batman, Batman Returns, and then the snippet from this Crisis on Infinite Earths where he shows that he exists and he married Selena Kyle. Which in turn could also mean that Michelle Pfeiffer could come back as Catwoman in Flashpoint, potentially.
True.
If they stick to that timeline. Because again, in Crisis, they showed that, and as well as the last part of Crisis, they showed Grant Gustin's Flash meeting Ezra Miller's Flash, seemingly confirming the multiverse for the very first time. I
do
like,
wonder. I do wonder though if
that.
you remember where Knox showed up in the episode where he kind of looks out and they have the Bat logo show up behind him,
mm-hmm.
And it's kind of in red. That's not the logo that was used in the original movie. It's also, more. It's not quite the Batman Beyond symbol, but it takes some elements from that.
I mean,
so I don't know.
Could be a potential version. You know what I mean? Again,
yeah.
if Jim Lee's smart enough to make all these moves, maybe that's super calculated. Maybe that's the most calculated thing ever done in the CW universe, is
Right.
to foreshadow Michael Keaton's return that far back.
Right.
So I am, if they do him in an Old Man Wayne style and he becomes like a Batman Beyond type character, maybe that's his symbol, and then when we get Batman Beyond, they update it to what they want it to be.
So, as far as a quote-unquote replacement goes for Ben Affleck's Batman, it does seem to be counterintuitive to have an even older actor come in and replace an older style Batman, unless you absolutely adapt the Batman Beyond storyline, which means now you're having to cast a Terry McGinnis style to then, I guess, team up with the Justice League, even though that version of Batman never teamed up with that version of Wonder Woman and Aquaman. So they're going to have to do some sort of either explanation or piecemeal, or I don't know what they're going to do.
So one of the other thing that's been talked about by legitimate scooper people on Twitter is that it possibly would be a Batman Beyond style move, but Michael Keaton would be in multiple movies and be a mentor to like a Batgirl type character, because that's also one of the characters that they're really trying to get up and running. So
in this universe, there is no. They're gonna make a female version, you think, of a Batman Beyond character?
That, or they go with Batgirl, and I don't know. I'm sure that's all being answered by those people in those positions. But I feel like, again, we're talking about theories, so honestly, anything could go.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably still early to jump into the future with a Batman Beyond, unless Michael Keaton can time travel as a Batman.
Right.
I'm interested to see how they kind of play that out. But again, with what you said earlier about Patty Jenkins putting Wonder Woman 3 on pause, partially possibly due to the fact that they're really waiting to see what happens with, Justice League and how it could change the course for DC in general. I as much as they want to keep saying it, I don't think Ben Affleck's fully done. He may.
So you envision a world where Keaton exists and is the cameo moving forward, and also Affleck is involved?
See, that's what I don't know. I feel like
I don't think they can do both.
I don't
If
either.
and unless they're going to curtail one of them to literal cameos, and that means Affleck continues on, meaning Keaton will just be, you know, briefly shown in some things, or Keaton really is, and they're going to kill off Affleck.
I don't know. See, that's what I don't know either. I don't think they're gonna kill off Affleck. I
Because doesn't Thomas Wayne come back to the universe that Flash is from and becomes a citizen?
That I don't remember. There's a comic that came out after Rebirth started where it was a Flash Batman like three comic series, and Thomas meets Bruce. Uh, but I don't see. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't think they'll go super out there. I think they'll go out there, but I won't. But again, this is Justice League, and everything is trying to play realistically. So, and when it comes to Flash, he's the only one who can break those barriers. So, I think personally, best case scenario, what could happen is Affleck survives Justice League. Um, we get to see continuation of him with Deathstroke and Joker, even though those may be rumors, they may be false rumors. I don't. It's out in the air, and once it becomes big enough and out in the air, it'll be paid attention to. And you know, Ben
Yeah,
Affleck,
because remember, in Keaton's world, Joker's dead,
right,
Penguin's dead.
right,
We never really got to see any other character other than obviously Selena Kyle as Catwoman.
and it's just
Um,
Keaton's verse. So like, Jim Carrey and all those characters are not technically in his world.
Although the connecting tissue is, um,
Alfred,
yeah, Alfred.
same Alfred in all four movies, but
Yeah,
they
so
they could go the Halloween route and disregard certain movies and go back to the ones they mean, which would be the first and second one. Uh,
well, yeah, because and there'll also be no, I don't think, any internet clamoring for Val Kilmer to
oh
reprise his
no, no,
role
no, and he's in
or
such
George
bad
Clooney.
shape. I don't think they'd get either one of those. I think they're. I think
Right.
if anybody's out, those two are for sure out.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but someone like Keaton, who again, like you said from the very beginning, has constantly been throwing out there that he's Batman. Uh, of hell yeah, he wants it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but in what capacity? I don't know. Maybe, uh, Batman Beyond comes from Tim Burton's universe, and Michael Keaton, even though Flash works with technically is might work with Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne and all that, he's not gonna. I don't think he'll bring that guy back to mentor the regular DC guys. I feel like that's kind of an odd move, but again, I don't know. Anything's up in the air. Uh, but I feel like it is just so out there that Affleck is like loved as Batman. And
Yep.
now that the right people are in the right positions and people are clamoring for him back as Batman in the right way, which is under Zack's vision, and clamoring for fucking Leto as Joker. They want to see the fucking real breakdown of that character. I'm not gonna go too far into it because we've already covered it, but like again, you cannot flesh out an entire new version of a beloved character in 11 minutes or less. It doesn't
Right.
happen. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
WB knows where they fucked up with Zack. I'm sure they know where they fucked up with Suicide Squad, and they know.
Yeah.
Listen, Jared Leto is a fucking Oscar winner. Okay, so I mean, fuck yeah, give him another
Well,
shot.
so here's my, and since we briefly talked about it, I had an additional thought on that.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a second Suicide Squad movie already coming out, and if we hadn't seen a Birds of Prey where they completely remove basically any scene that would have Leto's face in it, I don't think that he's going to get the fair shake moving forward that everybody else might.
I agree.
And so I think he's going to be the one character, especially because we know Leto's not going to be in the new Suicide Squad movie.
Right.
How many movies surrounding villains that are literally right-hand men/women of the Joker
Are
in
we gonna
some
have to hear
comics,
about?
and without having the Joker in it, can you do without just admitting we're not using this Joker?
Right.
You know.
Uh, yeah.
But with that said, that Joker is Ben Affleck's Joker.
Yes. 100%.
So they're tied together, and they just happen to be the two characters that are the most purely up in the air. And one more thought: the reason why I don't think Affleck's going to continue is that I think one of the things that brought him on to the project in general, being excited to work with Zach, etc., is that I think they offered him his writing and directing possibility for a standalone, and I don't think that he will be willing to come back in just an acting and unless they give him another chance to write and direct something.
I will counter that argument with this. I think it is fully possible that he could come back. I think it's fully possible they could use and adapt the script that he wrote, which would include Deathstroke and Arkham Asylum and Joker. I think they could totally manipulate that for an HBO Max series, and but just let him be the star and give Batman off to Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's already doing Justice League. He's going to I'm
But
definitely I'm
with the
sure
HBO Max thing, you think they would let him write and direct the HBO
I
Max
think if this thing's a
show?
hit, I think if this thing's a hit like it's probably gonna be, they're gonna let him do anything. Um, because I mean, again, Ben Affleck, Argo. You know what I mean? He's already got an Oscar. You got him.
Yeah,
You
no,
got you
I
got
have no
two.
I have no doubt that like he could do it. I'm
Right.
saying I don't think they'll offer him that.
I don't think he wants it. Uh, I think what he would probably love the most is just to star and have some creative input, but he doesn't want full responsibility of directing and everything because, as again we talked about this before, but he was scared of He has mentioned that he was scared of relapsing and turning to alcohol when all that pressure was put on him. But now that he has a lot to a significant amount of that pressure taken off of him, he could actually concentrate on being Batman, being in shape for Batman. And
Well,
then,
didn't he write and direct that recent movie uh, that was kind of about him essentially, a
oh,
recovering
the as
alcoholic?
the basketball coach.
Yeah, I kind of see him doing way more projects like that, where he's actually writing and directing these smaller things versus taking on a huge project like an HBO show to boot that would be seasons potentially.
Well, then maybe you give him an overall deal and say, we'll let you do what you want here, but we'd also like you to be Batman. And then
Yeah,
you kill
I would
two
be all for it.
yeah, and you kill two birds with one stone. But here's the thing. Again, you don't give two Oscar winners, one in Ben Affleck, one in Jared Leto, and show this unworldly potential of what could be, and then say no. Especially, and again, I'm only saying this because of the people who are in these power positions now. Again, you have Jim Lee, who's now the creative officer, chief creative officer of DC, and you have Ann Sarnoff, who's the CEO of WB, and together have with a producer like Toby Emmerich, who's been there for all the Batman stuff, have been able to make this happen. And if there's one thing all these big companies need, it's money. From all this quarantine and all the stuff that's been going on and all the things that have been put on hold, there's no better way to recoup your money than to give as many Batman as you can out there and just make as much money off of your most popular character as soon as you can. Uh, it's there's no end to the cash you can make off of him. And
So so then you're so best case scenario in that scenario is they sort of make an announcement for the Ayer cut, um, and we're just sort of in that waiting game then for how the reception is because then we finally get to see his portrayal.
yes,
Yeah, because
uh,
I do think the speculation is very unfair to him because we have no idea what he really did.
right. And it has been the information has been circulated by the people who were there that said, Jared Leto was amazing. David Ayers said it. All the people and who also may be biased towards the movie, but whatever, like, have said that like this dude, however method and odd he may have been, and what is true and what isn't true about what happened on or off set, like this dude gave a performance, and everyone was entranced. Uh, and you can't see what everyone's talking about in 11 minutes.
Well, let's talk about the scorned aspect of what an actor may feel towards a studio, because Jared Leto doesn't strike me as someone who says, "Oh shit, I need money."
Right.
Like he picks his projects as kind of art. He's got his own band. He makes money. He even does some modeling. So he doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to be like, you know what? Let me bend these guys over a barrel, and I need $40 million to come back and play Joker. I think maybe if the challenge was presented to him, and everybody that he felt scorned by was out of the way, I think maybe he comes back and maybe attacks that role. But I think that he would also have to be offered some sort of like, hey, you're the Joker for the next
Yeah.
20 years. Because I know after the reports, whether they were true or not, you have to wonder psychologically, after all the Joaquin Phoenix praise came out, if he felt a little like, what the hell?
Well, and that is
Because DC is moving forward with Joaquin,
oh yeah.
even if it's in its own branch.
It's legitimate. But again, with the people in their positions now, you get the right people to go and make amends with Jared. You know, the Kevin Tushihara dude is out, Jim Lee is in, and Sarnoff is in, Toby Emmerich's in. Like, get them over there and tell them what the real plan is now, because that's what's most important. DC has a plan. There's no more wishy-washy stuff. It is very apparent they have an idea that they're going with, and they're going at it hard.
Listen, if the Snyder Cut taught us that nothing is off the table,
right.
I think the epitome of that, in another sense, is after Wolverine Origins, we saw the absolute shit show that was Deadpool in that movie.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds,
who was essentially Baraka
after
from
feeling
Mortal Kombat.
scorned, yeah, he was Baraka. After feeling scorned, came back and now has arguably one of the more popular characters on Marvel's roster that isn't even part of the Marvel's main universe yet. If that's possible,
yeah,
I think Jared Leto coming back, anything is literally possible.
Yeah. What's crazy about Ryan Reynolds is that dude took a character that he had a lot of love for and wanted to do right, made some test footage, somebody, wink wink, leaked it, and it was a fucking hit. And it was talked about and talked about and talked about so much that they had to be like, all right, what do you want? Let's do this. They did it, and it became the most successful R-rated comic book movie up until Joker.
Yep.
Literally the other character we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And by the way, the Joker has 2 Oscar-winning performances and a 3rd Oscar winner who hasn't been able to have his full performance shown.
Yep.
That is fucking crazy.
Well, and that puts Ryan Reynolds in rarefied air, as he could literally turn around a second character that got bad reviews in Hal Jordan and the critically bombing Green Lantern, I think of 2011 maybe.
Oh my god.
If the rumors are possibly true, we tell you with a grain of salt, because the scooper that had it gets things right and gets things wrong. What a limb to step out on, though, because if I would have put my money onto something never happening again, it would be the character who has subsequently made fun of his portrayal of the character in other movies as part of the dialogue, coming back to that role to play that character again.
Yeah. Listen, I tried to watch. My girlfriend was like, my girlfriend loves Blake Lively. She's a huge Gossip Girl fan and all that. And one night she was like, I want to watch Green Lantern. And I was like, are you sure? And she said, yeah. And I said, all right, buckle up. And we had HBO and we turned it on, and she got about to like 25 or 30 minutes and then was like, all right, yeah, I can't do this. And I was like, yeah, that's literally everyone else's feelings, including that guy right there in the suit's thoughts.
Yep. I mean, it was the epitome of once companies figured out, oh, we can make a movie almost completely off CGI, but then you realize that 10 years later the CGI looks so dated.
Yeah.
It looks like you're playing I don't know, Duke Nukem
Yeah.
back in the 90s
Oh
on
my
your
god.
computer.
100%. And it's like not only it's like most of the movie is in CGI. And so
Yeah.
uh, it's just
It's
it's
the
awful.
worst looking comic book suit I've ever seen
Yeah.
with that much money put towards it.
Yeah.
Like we've seen some terrible suits, like on the CW shows,
Sure.
but my God, they put a lot of money towards that suit, and it just doesn't look real at all.
It looks yeah, it's awful. But so here's what's crazy. So they started all these rumors about how now after Michael Keaton was rumored to be coming back, they're talking about how Ryan Reynolds is coming back as Green Lantern, and then uh, some non-legit scoopers are saying it, but multiple non-legit scoopers, some semi-legit, and I've had some like confirmations happen, all said it. But then you have super legitimate scoopers who are saying, nah, it's bullshit. Again, here we're in the super big belief that nothing is off the table now because of the Snyder Cut, and even rumored that Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern, would show up in the Snyder Cut. I'm about
Yeah,
50-50 on that. I think it could and could not happen, but I definitely think Ryan Reynolds could come back as Green Lantern at some point. I have no idea if it's in the Snyder Cut though. I know there is a
are
Green
are
Lantern,
you
but
are you in more favor of him coming as Green Lantern or them casting the role, as originally reported as like a buddy cop thing between Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan with like Tom Cruise in it?
you know, I'm a even though I don't really believe his religion that he follows is amazing. I think Tom Cruise is a badass actor, and I would I think it'd be I think he's a perfect fit for a Green Lantern. But
I would rather have him as Green Lantern just so that the 2011 Green Lantern wasn't canon.
I can agree with that.
That's my whole thinking is just that. And I also don't think Marvel would let an actor do a rival superhero movie, but who
Well,
knows what contract he's worked out.
true, but there's already been multiple people who have crisscrossed. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know what kind of stipulations are there. Uh, Plus, Marvel or Disney bought that from Fox. So I don't know how all that works out if he's still, because what they were saying is if they do R-rated Deadpool's, they're going to release them under the Fox banner or whatever that was, and not throw Disney on it.
Right.
Which I totally get.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to throw Disney on it, then there's not that big of a chain link to you as if you're Captain America.
That's true.
So that could go either way. I'm a huge Ryan Reynolds fan, and I think I would personally just love to see him directed by Zack Snyder in that type of serious role, and not just as a fucking hilarious person. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah, because while he's known for that, he can do a serious role.
yeah, he's got range. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've seen
If Jim Carrey has range, the epitome of the ultimate
oh
comedian,
yeah,
Ryan Reynolds can do it.
yeah. I mean, again, Ryan Reynolds was in Amityville Horror, and that shit was crazy.
Exactly.
So I would be down for either. I feel like the scope of the Justice League and how big it is in Zack's eyes probably fits a more Tom Cruise style person, but I don't necessarily think Ryan Reynolds is out of the running for that. I mean, if there's anyone who can get physically fit and look badass in a suit, it's him. Um,
Oh yeah, if they could make, my question is, obviously with Zack Snyder's promotional work for his original movie was Unite the Seven, that has to include Green Lantern
right,
unless he secretly meant Martian Manhunter
right.
with General Swanwick. If Jeff Johns is doing his own, is it a TV show under his production unit for Green
It
Lantern,
sounds
or what
like
is
it.
it?
It sounds like a Green Lantern Corps series.
Okay, if that's what he's doing, and if you're telling me it has no tie-in to the movies, then again, I'm questioning what DC's doing because it's a lot to introduce a character. Really, I guess we could say reintroduce a character since we had the 2011 movie, but to then throw a bunch of different versions that aren't in the same universe, it just has me questioning things.
Well, and now that Jeff Johns' role is smaller in general and that the Snyder Cut has been approved, I mean, maybe Jeff Johns' producer role gets a little smaller. And
Yeah, it sounds to me like that probably is the case. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stepped down. I don't think he would have stepped down on his own. I think it's probably hey, man, we're
yeah,
going to go in a different direction.
it's not really working out with your decisions, bud. Uh, I, you know, again, so many things could happen. This Green Lantern Corps series quite possibly and quite potentially could be connected to the entire DCEU. And
Yeah.
they could also go the same route with Cyborg. I feel like a Cyborg series fits him better than a Cyborg movie at this very moment. That could change after Justice League. But him being basically a I don't even know if I should say sidekick, but just an extra character in Flashpoint. He's got these
Well,
ensemble.
he's a prominent, Cyborg's a prominent role in Flashpoint.
He's a prominent role, but he's also part of an ensemble. These aren't focused
Yeah.
on him. I
Right.
think if they do something focused on Cyborg, maybe it goes to a series and maybe it's a little bit more personal and deep. Uh, but it's also weird because Doom Patrol is on HBO and they have a young Cyborg.
Right.
So it's a little odd. I don't know how they're going to navigate that one. Again, a multiverse is alive and well. That's the easy answer. But to have two cyborgs on HBO Max might be a little weird. So maybe they do make
Yeah,
a
because
movie with them.
one theory I guess is content. A lot of content is good. You give a lot of options depending on what age fans are.
Yes,
Maybe they've
100%.
got ties to comics based on their age that they like more than others. With some fans of the Teen Titans
You're so right.
replacing the Justice League, etc. However, what Marvel does is they're providing this extra content that still comes to the core of what story they're telling.
Right.
And so, maybe DC is trying to be different with that thinking. But we know they have been at least at this point. But it's just speculation until the Snyder Cut drops and we can end that speculation.
Oh
And
man.
I think I saw end of May next year.
So right now, the official words were early to mid 2021.
Okay.
People have been speculating May 21st, tying it to certain days, whether it be like Zack Snyder's birthday or prominent days within the DC universe, as far as like anniversaries of certain things. I don't really know. My guess is if this quarantine thing keeps going on, they want to get it out as soon as possible.
That's what I was
So
hoping for, because if Zach's touting that, hey, I've got a cut done, and then we figure out, all right, probably going to need 40-50 million dollars to actually finish everything. Does it usually take a year to finish up graphics,
yeah,
or is some of that money for reshooting? Because I did see a Superman interview where he basically was going to be tied up with The Witcher for the next 6 months,
right.
and maybe that's why it's going to take till May. Maybe he gets in his Witcher shape, which is similar to his Superman shape, although a little bit different. And then there's some reshoots. It just seems like a long time to just finish up graphics.
I imagine I imagine getting in shape for reshoots from where at least from where he is at his stage of fitness right now for The Witcher is, I mean, minuscule, and the suit could hide a lot of it,
Right.
uh, or if anything, enhance it. I I think with what's going on right now and the recent surge in cases of what's happening right now, and with Wonder Woman still not being out, and with DC, we're also probably going to get a lot of answers in August at the DC Fandom event or whatever that they're doing
Yeah,
for.
I'm hoping that becomes like a Comic Con Hall H type of, here is our slate of stuff coming out. Even if they don't give us exact months, give us the order that things come out in.
Well, this is what's so cool about what they're doing. As soon as Comic Con got canceled, they were right up there saying, "All right, well, this is what we're doing." And I mean, they're having a giant experience. They're talking about all the new movies. I would imagine we'll get all trailers. We'll get the Suicide Squad trailer. We'll get a Snyder Cut trailer. We'll probably get a new Wonder Woman, probably the final Wonder Woman trailer if it's still planning to come out in October. That'll probably be the second to last official Wonder Woman trailer. That'll probably be our first look at Cheetah.
Yeah, it probably will be the last because I think the original release date was like August
Oh, is it? I can't
14th
remember
or
if it was
something. But,
August or
well, it
September.
got moved to October.
Okay,
But if
that's
they
what it
were
was.
planning for an August release, they would have had maybe one more trailer,
Yeah,
probably in July.
right.
But
You're
I
right.
don't think that with that getting pushed to October, let's just say it stays in October by
Right.
some miraculous whatever. DC doesn't have a movie in 2021 since they moved the Batman all the way to 2022.
Well, the Suicide Squad is going to come out.
Is uh is that in 2021?
Yeah,
Because I thought that got pushed to 2022 too.
I thought it was.
Let's see.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking up. Yeah, it says 2021, August 6th of next year.
Okay, August. So that will be the lone 2021 movie because I think the Batman got pushed back to March of 2022. The Flash was June of 2022, and then Shazam is November of 2022.
Yes.
So really, you've got Suicide Squad and Snyder Cut.
And also, I bet you we get an air cut.
Yeah, that would be nice to see if they could put that together quicker. But I think that's going to maybe be the big announcement.
This is what I think is pretty interesting, is that it took 3 years for them to pay attention to release the Snyder Cut, but then as soon as they did, it got moving quick, right? I mean, we already got our first teaser within like a week and a half of it being released or announced or whatever officially, right? So then you give all this time to kind of maybe reset some of the feelings about the DC universe. I imagine at some point HBO Max is gonna put up Batman versus Superman Ultimate Edition because all that's on there right now is the theatrical version, and it's widely known that like the Ultimate Edition is what you should watch.
Right.
Man of Steel, I don't think you need a director's cut. Pretty great first run, you know what I mean? If there is a director cut, I'll for sure as hell watch it, but it's not necessarily needed. But
Yeah.
Ultimate Edition is needed for continuity and for seeing the best version of that movie. Then that's when HBO is like, all right, well let's do the air cut and get that out there. I'm sure Wonder Woman and Aquaman are probably gonna stay the same. There was no real big call for any sort of director's cut. I imagine Aquaman was the director's cut for the most part. I mean, that was a James Wan movie for sure. But then you kind of reset everybody's feelings. That way you can get them all kind of on the right pace for when Snyder Cut's available, which is like in May. So maybe, because I know all these movies just got announced that were supposed to be leaving HBO, like all the theatrical stuff like Justice League and Suicide Squad were getting announced to get taken off, but they're staying on now to the end of the year. So maybe January is when they do the reset, and you get Man of Steel, because Man of Steel is not on HBO Max right now. But I imagine they put that on there. They put Ultimate Edition on there. They put the air cut of Suicide Squad, so we get the real taste of the Joker, and then you can watch Wonder Woman, the real Snyder Cut Justice League, and then Aquaman will be on there. And then you get
I was just thinking, if they're going to have like 4 movies in 2022.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about Ava's movie, The New Gods.
Yeah, I mean, bro.
We don't know anything about that.
We don't, but I guarantee you, if Zack Snyder's Dark Side is hella successful, you're gonna see that guy in the New Gods. You're gonna see his version, or at least a version of his version. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's pretty wild. I think. Side note: now that I was saying, it took 3 years to get the Snyder cut for them to actually listen to us. I think now that they're listening so hard, and again, right people in the right places now, the Ayer cut's not going to need 3 years. It's probably going to need another month. And, come August, they'll be like, we hear you, we see you, we want to show you what you were wanting to see in the first place. Again,
But they have to release the Ayer cut prior to the next Suicide Squad, right?
they do, and I imagine they would because that movie's so. From what David Ayer said online and everything, it's pretty much done. I mean, that's like 95% done. They just got to make their little edits and stuff. But
Well, that's where I'm confused. Is I would think that we'd have more backing about that because I realize it was probably a couple months prior to the actual announcement of the Snyder Cut that we started seeing the actors actually on Twitter say release the Snyder Cut.
right.
We don't see any of that traction from the actors in Suicide Squad pushing for the Ayer cut.
We may not see that because we may not need to because they may already know that it's going to get released.
I hope so. I just wish that Margot Robbie was out there with that hashtag because she would pull a lot of weight.
She would, but she also doesn't have to do anything because Harley's a hit.
Right. True.
I think,
yeah, that's true.
I think if anyone should jump on, it should be Will Smith. I think he's probably
Well, he may feel a little left out since his scheduling didn't work for the second one.
well, but since they're not replacing his character, he's still allowed to come back. So
Yeah, that's true.
you give us the Ayer version of his character, even though it looked. I imagine since we saw so much of him, that's probably what he was. He probably doesn't stray too far from what they show. Um, but again, it's Will fucking Smith. I mean,
Right. Right.
he got kind of wronged because from what I remember and what I read, he was disappointed so much in what happened with Suicide Squad that I think he fired his agents.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think I heard that
Because
too.
again, he got rid of people because something turned out so off from what it was supposed to be. And
Right.
I would love to see. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think if anyone jumped on the bandwagon, it should be Will Smith, probably Jared Leto afterwards, because I know he want we all want it. We all want to see his redemption. And now that everyone's able to
it would feel I don't see him campaigning for it. He
I don't
just
either.
seems like he's kind of the let whatever happens happens guy.
Yes, I
I think
agree.
I think that he absolutely is pissed at DC for what happened.
I hope I feel like he's intelligent enough not to be pissed off at DC, but the people at DC who made those decisions and would know the difference when new people are brought into play that want to make it right. I feel like
Yeah,
he's not
I
a
just
generalizer.
I wonder if he got let's just say less than 11 minutes of screen time in the first one. What are we thinking? 30 minutes?
No, the rumor mill is that it's 39.
Okay. Well, that is significant.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, man. And I mean, it's not only huge because it's not just the amount of time, but how it was originally supposed to be seen. You know, editing, for those of you who don't know, who may have never thought about this, editing is huge. It's what makes shows funny, it's what makes shows suspenseful, it's what makes shows, loving, caring. It's like showing these moments and interactions at the right time. It's timing. It's like comedic timing, only it's visual timing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And
Yep.
so you're trying to hit all the right notes at the right times with the right shots. So, actors are given scripts and they read the dialogue, but sometimes when you're putting something together, rearranging it, musicians do the same thing, arranging music. It's just putting it in all the right places.
Right.
And the Suicide Squad we got in theaters was not put in all the right places,
Yeah.
and it did not have all the right pieces. And so, you not only is that extension of time great, but seeing it the way it was originally envisioned by the actual director and whoever his editor was, because it definitely wasn't the one who did the movie. Uh,
Yep.
I I mean, I'd be ecstatic to see it.
Oh, same. Yeah, we're on the same page.
But yeah, that's what I think.
Well, man, I'm pumped for Keaton, and yeah, it feels like a childhood dream,
Yeah, and
honestly.
I want to remind everyone who might listen to this at some point when this is airing. This is June 25th. Uh, we found out about the Snyder Cut this month. We found out about DC fandom this month. We found out about the potential of Michael Keaton coming back this month. And we've heard rumors which could be considered uh, honestly, but with lots of grains of salt, that we may get our Jeffrey Dean Morgan Thomas Wayne. That we may, I mean, the fact that Jim Lee has stated that the DC multiverse exists also means Christian Bale could come back.
Oh
He,
my God, could
the
you
bat,
imagine?
right now, the Batman of Batmans at this point is probably him as far as completion. Uh,
Right. Yeah, he's the most complete version we've seen.
yeah, and he's open because all of DC is open. Uh, I mean,
Now, what circumstances he
right,
would need to come back,
right,
knowing how the last one ended, we'd have to discuss. But yeah,
right,
I mean, who at least a reference to him, and
right,
who
exactly.
wouldn't like that?
I mean, and that's what's so crazy because what we said
Do you
in
want to
way,
do a flashpoint where they show different universes and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is uh, somewhere fighting crime?
yeah, I mean, maybe. Uh, I mean, there's so much, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I mean, how cool would that be to retcon Joseph Gordon-Levitt and let Christian Bale become Batman again? Like Flash finds Bruce, Bruce goes back to Gotham, meets up with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and is Robin essentially, and being like, they need our help, and Robin's like, all right, well, this is your mantle, and then maybe that's how he takes on Nightwing or Robin or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, imagine going back and retconning that and fixing it because you have the Flash, and not
Yeah.
necessarily fixing it because it doesn't need to be fixed, but just even making it even better.
Right.
What
Yep.
everyone I think wanted or would have loved to see in the Dark Knight Rises is for Robin to come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I have to say, as much as I love Christopher Nolan, as much as I love the Dark Knight trilogy, tiny bit of a letdown seeing Robin be, evolve that way. Uh, I
Right, because
not a
it was all kind of very like throw in at the end as they're wrapping up the movie. Oh, his middle name was Robin,
right,
and let's just all throw it together because as you have a rich history with the Batman character, they have not really explored the rich history of the first Robin, Dick Grayson, then
right,
becoming the rich character of Nightwing.
right,
So there's so much that they can do, and they are fucking it up at the very beginning stages of our just main heroes.
right.
So
And
yeah,
to be fair, apparently Robert Pattinson's Batman universe is gonna be like the most comic, where you get a Dick Grayson and you get him. You know what I mean? Like, apparently that one's gonna follow that format. That whole universe is like made to follow that kind of story, where you get to see somewhat comic accurate arcs of what you know what I mean. What happens?
well, that would mean that he would sign up for 10 years at least, because I don't know at what stage Robin comes in to the Batman fruition, because the only iteration we've really seen is the Val Kilmer stage, which I guess you could argue is the prime to back half
Mm-hmm.
version. So it will be interesting to see at what metric they bring in a young Robin to a really a young Robert Pattinson.
So rumor is it's going to happen in this one.
The
I've
first movie.
I've read a few reports that may not be Robin, but Dick Grayson will be introduced in some form or fashion. If it's true, I don't
Okay.
know. Um, but I've read it at least more than once on a couple of sites from some people. Uh, or at least, that's kind of what they got from the story draft. Um, if it happens, I don't know, because a lot of people were also thinking that the murder scene or whatever that they were trying to film before all this started was that, but it could have been the actual mayor or something like that. But
Okay.
there's been rumors of like the circus type thing coming through town or whatever. Like again, it's could be anywhere, could be nowhere. But I don't have the sources in front of me, and I'm sorry, but I definitely have read that that is a possibility that he may show up in the first one
Okay.
because
But that'll be interesting.
it
And
is
then maybe the
Batman's
last of the
second year,
trilogy goes off as Nightwing.
right? Because they did say that in this movie it is his second year as Batman, so he's been Batman for a year. Uh, Perfect time to realize maybe he needs a little help.
God, it's a hard realization to think how much story you got there because when he becomes Nightwing, Batman is still in a prime fighting to be able to need a second Robin and Jason Todd, and then this character arc with that.
Right.
And it just is such a long history that they're going to have to dive into that I hope they don't rush, but I hope that they get to.
Right. I
Since we
agree.
haven't really finished arc.
And again, I'm interested to see what's established from this movie. Sorry, I used established twice, but like, again, it's his second year as Batman. So how do you
Right.
introduce a second year Batman? You show what's happened and what is already true for this world.
Right.
But yeah, there's so much, and there's so much that's just happened in this month, and that's what I was trying to get to. It's June 25th. For those of you who are listening right now, there's 5 days left in this month, and we've already heard this much. It is, God, no, I'm sorry for the pun, but it is kind of batshit crazy. Uh, but in all the right ways. You know what I mean? Like, DC is knocking it out of the park right now as far as announcements. I hope to God, even though I don't personally believe in God, I hope to God that this all kind of comes to fruition because it's what all the DC fans have been clamoring for this entire time.
Right.
And it feels like they're listening and paying attention very hard now. So, looks like a bright future.
I agree. I'm pumped.
But yeah, I feel like that's probably our natural end. We are a very organic show. Um, just, thank you guys for listening in if you're doing it live or if you're doing it later.
Yep.
Uh,
Thanks, guys.
we'll be back next week. We thought about talking about Superman this week, but then all this stuff kind of popped up, and then we just kind of took a liking to that. But next week we might be back with Superman, or we might be talking about something else. Who knows what's gonna happen? There's like 6 days in between this one and the next one.
And if you guys send in questions, maybe we do a question episode. We answer a variety of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's up in the air.
supertheorypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. If you like us, follow us. We're on Instagram and all that shit. Super Theory Pod. But yeah, thank you so much. We hope you are excited as us, especially now that officially nothing is off the table. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do defines me.